There is a theft happening right now on your credit card statement. It isn't a hacker, it isn't fraud, it's legal, it's silent, and it works exactly the way it was designed to work. 61% of Americans with credit card debt have been carrying that balance for over a year, and 22% of them have already given up, believing they will never escape that debt. Today, I am going to show you the 10 signs you'll never escape the credit card trap, unless you understand exactly how it was built to keep you in it. Before we get into the signs, I need to give you context that completely changes how you're going to see the next few minutes. Total credit card debt in the United States has surpassed $1.27 trillion. That isn't just a number, it's the highest figure ever recorded since the government started tracking this debt in 1999. And the financial industry isn't worried about that, because this debt isn't an accident, it's the business model. Banks don't profit when you pay your statement in full every month. They profit when you pay only the minimum. Month after month, year after year, while compound interest works silently against you, the exact same way investments work in favor of someone who invests. And here's what nobody tells you. Most people trapped in this aren't irresponsible, aren't careless, didn't make a single catastrophic decision. They simply never learned to recognize the signs that show when manageable debt turns into a financial prison. Today, you're going to learn to recognize those signs, you're going to understand exactly why each one is dangerous, and most importantly, you're going to leave here knowing exactly what to do if you recognize these signs in your own life. Let's start with the first one. The first sign is also the most common, and probably the most dangerous. You open the statement, see the total balance, see the minimum payment, and choose to pay only the minimum, thinking you're keeping things under control. You're not. Let me show you the real math. If you have $5,000 in credit card debt at 21% interest, and you only pay the minimum, which is usually around 2% of the balance, it will take you over 20 years to pay off that debt. 20 years. And along the way, you'll pay over $7,000 just in interest, on top of the original $5,000 you borrowed. The TV, the trip, the furniture that created that debt will be long forgotten, but the payments will keep coming, month after month. This is the most basic and most profitable mechanism in the credit card industry. A minimum payment isn't relief. It's an anesthetic that makes you feel like you're making progress, while compound interest works silently against you. But here's the good news. This sign has a simple solution, even if it isn't an easy one. Always pay more than the minimum, even if it's only $20 or $30 extra a month. That small increase can cut years off your debt and thousands of dollars in interest. But the minimum payment is only the first sign, because there's a second behavior, much more subtle, that most people don't even realize they're doing, and it can be even more dangerous than this one. The second sign isn't about a specific payment, it's about time. How long have you been carrying a balance on your card? 6 months? A year? Longer? Because here's the data point that should worry you. 61% of Americans with credit card debt have been carrying that balance for at least a year, a number that's up from 53% the year before. That means credit card debt has stopped being something temporary and become a permanent state for most people. And the longer you carry a balance, the harder it gets to escape. Because every month that passes, compound interest doesn't stop. It stacks on top of last month's interest, creating a snowball that grows faster than most people can pay down. A 1-month debt is an inconvenience. A 1-year debt is a behavior pattern. And behavior patterns are far harder to break than one-time situations. But there's a clear solution to this sign. If you've been carrying a balance for more than 6 months, it's time to consider a balance transfer card with 0% interest for a promotional period, usually between 12 and 21 months. That doesn't erase the debt, but it stops interest from piling up while you pay down the principal. Just have a clear plan to pay it off before the promotional period ends, because the rate that kicks in afterward is usually brutal. But even with a zeroed-out balance, there's a third sign that can pull you right back into this trap, and it's hiding inside your own budget. The third sign is hiding inside your own budget. And that's exactly why most people don't notice it. Ask yourself, in the last few months, have you used your credit card to buy groceries, pay a utility bill, or cover a basic everyday expense? Because if the answer is yes, you're not alone. But you're also not in a safe position. 33% of people with credit card debt say it comes from everyday expenses, like groceries, childcare, and bills, a number that's been climbing for the last 3 years. And here's why this is different from a one-time purchase. When you use the card for a trip or a piece of furniture, that's a single decision, one that can be corrected. But when you use the card for basic necessities, it means your monthly income is already not covering your monthly cost of living, and the card is just masking that deficit. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage. The debt doesn't stop growing because the underlying problem, the gap between what you earn and what you spend, was never solved. The solution here isn't to cut up the card. It's to do an honest X-ray of your income against your fixed expenses and find out exactly where the deficit is before it keeps growing month after month. Because until you fix that deficit, any debt you pay off is going to come right back, like water filling a bucket with a hole in it. And that's exactly what the next sign is going to show you, because there's a behavior even more dangerous than using your card for basic necessities. The fourth sign is what debt experts call the start of the cycle, and it's one of the most dangerous behaviors on this list. Have you ever used one credit card to make the minimum payment on another card? Or taken a cash advance from one card's available limit to cover the statement on another? If so, pay close attention, because you're not just in debt. You're in a cycle that feeds itself. Here's how that cycle works in practice. You have a card with a high balance, you're tight on cash this month, and you use a second card to cover the minimum on the first. It feels like a temporary fix, but really, you've just moved the problem. And now you have two balances growing with interest instead of one. Repeat that pattern for a few months, and you'll have 3, 4, sometimes 5 cards, all feeding off each other in a financial structure that exists only to delay the collapse, not to solve it. And the worst part, every time you open a new card, it shows up on your credit history, dragging down your score and making it harder to get better rates in the future. The solution here takes courage, but it's simple to understand. Stop opening new cards to solve the problem of the old ones. Instead, list every debt you have, from highest interest to lowest, and attack one at a time using the avalanche method, paying minimums on the rest and throwing every extra dollar at the highest interest debt. But even someone who has never fallen into this cycle could be exposed to a fifth sign, one that's literally in your pocket right now, waiting for the right moment to pull you back into this trap. The fifth sign is literally in your pocket, in your own credit card, waiting for a moment of financial weakness to be used. It's the cash advance. And if you've ever done this, even just once, you need to understand exactly what happened behind the scenes. Unlike a normal purchase, a credit card cash advance comes with an upfront fee, usually between 3% and 5% of the amount withdrawn, and interest starts accruing that same day, with none of the grace period that exists on regular purchases. And the interest rate on a cash advance is usually higher than the card's standard rate, sometimes several percentage points more. That means a $500 withdrawal for an emergency already costs more than $500 the moment you take it, and it keeps growing faster than any other debt on your card. Financial experts are clear about this. Cash advances should be avoided unless it's a true emergency. And even then, it should be the last option, not the first. Because once cash advances become a habit, even just once a month, they become the most expensive possible way to cover a financial gap. The solution is simple to understand, even if it's hard to practice in the heat of the moment. Before taking a cash advance, ask if there's any other alternative: selling something, borrowing from someone you trust, negotiating a deadline with whoever you owe, because almost any alternative is cheaper than a cash advance. But there's a sixth sign, far more silent, one that doesn't involve any dramatic action like a withdrawal, and that's exactly why it goes unnoticed in most people's lives. The sixth sign doesn't involve any specific action. It's about an absence. The absence of information. Ask yourself right now, without looking at your phone, do you know exactly how much you owe, adding up all your credit cards? If you hesitated, if you had to think about it, if your answer was something like around $8,000, I think, that's sign number 6. And here's why this is more dangerous than it sounds. When you don't know the exact number, your brain treats the debt as a vague concept instead of a concrete problem that needs a plan. You can't build a strategy for something you can't measure. It's impossible to know if you're making progress or falling behind. Impossible to compare interest rates between cards. Impossible to decide which debt to attack first. Most people trapped in this avoid adding up the total on purpose because somewhere inside they know the number is going to scare them. But avoiding the number doesn't make it smaller. It just delays the moment you'll have to face it, with extra interest piled on in the meantime. The solution here takes 15 minutes, no more than that. Pull out every card, write down the balance on each one, the interest rate on each one, and add it all up in a single spreadsheet or even on a piece of paper. That number is going to be uncomfortable to see, but it's exactly that discomfort that turns an abstract debt into a concrete target you can finally start attacking. And speaking of discomfort, there's a 7th sign that's even more subtle, because it isn't in your numbers, it's in your behavior every time the statement arrives. The 7th sign happens every month, on the same day, and most people don't even realize they're doing it. The notification pops up on your phone, your statement is ready, and you feel that tightness in your stomach, and you put it off. You tell yourself you'll look at it later, after work, after the weekend, and that later sometimes turns into days, sometimes turns into weeks. This behavior has a name in financial psychology, financial avoidance, and it's more common than you think. And here's why it's dangerous. When you avoid looking at the statement, you lose the chance to catch wrong charges, to notice you're getting close to your limit, to spot spending that could be cut before it turns into debt. You also miss deadlines, and missed deadlines mean late fees, extra interest, and sometimes even losing promotional rates you had earned. The anxiety that makes you avoid the statement is the exact same anxiety that grows even more while you avoid it, creating a cycle where the more you run from it, the scarier the problem looks. The solution here is simple, but it takes repetition until it becomes a habit. Pick one fixed day every week to open and review your statements. No judgment, just observation. Set a reminder on your phone, turn it into a 5-minute ritual, and over time, the anxiety will fade because you'll be in control of the information instead of being controlled by the fear of it. But there's an 8th sign that many people mistake for financial responsibility, when it's actually the exact opposite. A lot of people think having available credit on a card already counts as an emergency fund. It doesn't. A credit card is available debt, not your own money. And using it in an emergency means you start paying interest at the exact moment you're most financially vulnerable. 41% of people with credit card debt say it started with an unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, a home emergency. If you don't have any money set aside outside of your card, any surprise expense is going to push you straight into this trap. The solution starts small. Save $500, then $1,000. Until you reach 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield account separate from your everyday money. If a card has declined a purchase of yours in the last few months, and your reaction was simply to try another card, that's a serious warning sign. A decline is the system telling you that you're already at your limit, and ignoring that warning, instead of reevaluating your spending, is exactly the behavior that keeps people trapped in this for years. The solution is to treat every decline as a red flag, not as an obstacle to work around. And we've arrived at the most dangerous sign of all, because it isn't about numbers, it's about belief. 22% of Americans with credit card debt have already given up mentally, believing they'll never manage to get out of this situation. And that belief is more expensive than any interest rate, because it makes you stop trying, stop making extra payments, stop looking for solutions, because deep down, you've already decided nothing is going to work. But here's the truth the numbers show. Every debt has a mathematical way out, no matter how slow it looks, and the only way to guarantee you'll never get out is to stop trying. 10 signs. And if you recognized yourself in 3 or more of them, it's time to act. Not tomorrow now. But I need to be direct with you about something. If your credit card debt is already destroying your finances, keeping you up at night, creating anxiety you carry all day, the steps I showed you here aren't enough. At that level, the solution isn't just financial strategy anymore. Cut up the card physically if you need to, and seek professional help. A financial therapist or a nonprofit credit counselor, because debt at that level affects your mind just as much as your bank account. And no spreadsheet fixes that alone. And if you want to take the first step to get your finances organized before things reach that point, we created the Couple Financial Planner Plus Vision Board, a practical tool for anyone who wants to stop winging it and start building with intention. The link is in the first pinned comment of this video. Now tell me in the comments, which of these 10 signs surprised you the most? And let me know where in the world you're watching from. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. See you next time.